Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and a couple of months ago I was introduced to a new fabric company. Now this is not a new fabric company, it was just new to me. But what I really found different about this company is the way they have their fabric. They print panels for dressmaking. So here's an example of this beautiful stretch knit fabric, and it is in a panel. So we're going to be able to take that panel and fussy cut it into clothing, skirts, dresses, blouses, pants, whatever we want. They do also have some patterns. I like the idea that I can have a dress that's very unique cut out of this panel. So I will be making one of the dresses today, and I'm going to be making this little sleeveless version. The patterns are a little bit different than what we would be accustomed to for McCall, Simplicity, and that type of thing. And the directions are a little different. So let me share with you how the patterns are done and how the directions are done, and well, let's make a dress. The fabric company is from the Netherlands, and it's called Stenzo. And they have some amazing prints for children, fun subject matters, great big panels that you can just cut and sew, boys wear. It really is quite endless on all of these beautiful fabrics and beautiful different panels. This is a medium weight stretch knit, so it's going to be super comfortable to wear. The patterns do come in a multi-size, and because it's European, they do have metric. The patterns are also in multi-languages. I'm using English, so I will go through and highlight all of the English words and any information that I need. Just like regular patterns, we do have what we're looking for, or the pattern layout, and how much fabric. I will be making the nose sleeve. I will choose my size, and from here I will know the panel size or the meter size. And let's talk about the sizing. Inside that pattern, we do have a lot of pages. These are all different languages. So you're going to be able to go through, and in my case, I'll just pull out the English. So it's asking me what my measurements are. I'm going to be able to compare them and get my size. You can find lots of charts on Google or various other places where we're going to be able to compare the centimeters to inches. However, a lot of tape measures on the back have that already built in for us. So just instead of using inches, I'm going to get a centimeter measurement. The seam allowances are built in. They have any explanation that you're going to need. And then this is the directions. If you really want, they do have a website that you will be able to follow along step by step with pictures. So once I know my size, I'm going to be able to take a look at the big pattern pieces. This comes with two very large sheets of paper, and it's a good strong paper. So I'll go through and I will highlight the measurement that I need and any important information. And in this case, the pattern includes 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Now these pages are going to overlap. So the second page has this big area where you're going to fold that down and, just like a puzzle piece, match that up. Now you could just tape this and cut right from this pattern piece, but for myself, I do prefer to trace them. I am going to be doing layout 3, so these are my layouts. A lot of the information's right here on these big pattern pieces. So I trace everything, and then I can take a dressmaker's paper or any type of tissue paper and trace out the size that I want, cut it out, and make my markings right on my paper. The notches look a little bit different. There are these little rectangles on the pattern pieces. Another thing to note are these numbers. So the notches 5 and 6 are going to go together. So when we're looking at the top, we have a 1 and a 2. So those are going to go together. So here's the one panel that I will be cutting that dress out of. It is directional, and I can tell by the birds in the sky. Some of them are directional and some of them are not. So I'm going to keep in mind the direction as I'm cutting out my pieces. So I have all of my pieces cut out, and I am going to be sewing this with a stretch needle and a stretch thread. This fabric does not fray, so I will not need to do a finishing edge. So this will be very quick, just sitting down and doing it on my Bernina. But if you'd like, you can always do this on your serger. So when we start following the directions, the first one says apply interfacing on the collar facing. Just say picture 1 because they do have that website that will show you pictures. Step 2, we're going to sew the shoulder seams together. Step 3, we're going to sew these facing seams together. So I will place right sides together. The seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So I'm going to stitch those seams together. And I'm going to do the same thing for those neck facings. Just sew those shoulder seams together. And just in case you're interested in seeing the difference between 1 centimeter, which is a little bit shorter than 1/2 inch. Once the facing and those sleeves have been done, we're going to be able to match up the edges. So we have a back facing that's going to go along the back and match up those side seams and match up the front. So it should lay flat from seam to seam and stitch using 1 centimeter. So my shoulder seams match up and I've stitched all the way around. Then we're going to take that facing, fold it right to the right side. We need to do a row of top stitch all the way around. So from this edge over, draw a line 3 centimeters and do it on the facing side. And that way the marks are on the facing, not on the front. So we now have 1 complete neckline. So what we want to do now are the sleeves. We did cut 1.5 inches of fabric on the bias, and that's going to go around the sleeve. The sleeves are going to look like there's a little binding on them. So we're going to take that right side of that little binding, put it on the wrong side. This piece will then come over to the front. To do that, we're going to be sewing a 1/2 centimeter. So we're going to start stitching, and then as you're stitching, you're just going to pull this slightly. Don't over pull it because we don't want to gather the sleeves. We just want to make those sleeves have a nice cuff. So we're going to start stitching, pull, stitch, pull, stitch, pull, stitch, pull. Let me show you. So we have this sleeve is going to come along here. So we're going to take the right side of that bias and place it on the back. So as I'm stitching, I'm just going to give this top piece a little tug, but I do want to make sure I do not stretch that sleeve. I'm only giving this top piece a stretch. So just have that sleeve lie flat, and you're going to stitch a little bit and stop. So I'm going to hold that up, stop, resituate, a little tug, I am matching up those 2 seams. I'm just giving this a little tug. Making sure that I don't stretch that sleeve. So I'm going to tug that a little bit all the way around. When you come to the end, you will have a little bit left over. I like to take that bias and just match it up to my seam and then fold it over. So it's just going to go over and match and flip over one more time. That little binding will be very flat. We're going to be able to stitch right along that edge. And that's how that finished edge is going to look. Press this flat, and then we get to sew the side seams together. Match up our 5 and 6 Just sew that entire length. We're going to do the one side, the second side, and the last thing is the hem. And to continue the simple pattern, the hem just went up with one row of stitching. The dress is now done. It was a very simple construction and very easy to put together. It's a very simple dress design, but the fabric really can change it every single time. Here's one that I'm working on. And here's another panel that I think would look great in this dress. Having those multi-sizes and multi-languages means anybody can use them. I'd like to thank Stenzo for sending me some fabric and the patterns so that I could share them with you. I'll put some links in the description so you can check out the pattern lines, and you might be able to find someone who sells it nice and close to you. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe and come on back. Let's see what we're working on next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.